Hello and welcome to another Final Fantasy XIV Stormblood related video, and today I wanted to talk about my personal favorite tank cooldowns in the game. My favorite top 10 mostly, but there are some exceptions here I want to talk about before we get this video started. So first off, there will be some abilities which I will not be counting in here, which would be the role abilities like Convalescence, Anticipation, Provoke. All of this stuff is pretty useful. At least, okay, Anticipation sometimes is not, but like Rampart or Awareness. But the thing is, they would be in my top 10 probably anyway, or in the top 15, so I would have to make like a bigger list, and also every tank has access to them, so I'm not gonna be counting them. What I'm gonna be counting is each individual tank's cooldowns, except for their ultimate cooldowns like Hallowed Ground. I will not be counting those because they are like in a different league, so to say, but I will only be talking about the cooldowns each tank can use to prevent damage or to mitigate damage. But before we get this started, I know this is mostly depending on my own usage and on my own experience and opinion, so you might be having a totally different top 10 cooldown list, and that's totally fine. So if you do not agree with me, please make sure to list your top 10 cooldowns in the comment section so I can compare them with mine, because I would be really interested what you think are the top 10 cooldowns our tanks currently have. I mean, which would be fitting into this categorization, but okay. First off, my number 10 would be Passage of Arms. Passage of Arms is the level 70 Paladin skill. It has a recast of 120 seconds, and the effect is it increases block rate by 100% and creates a designated area and cone behind you, in which party members will only suffer 85% of all damage inflicted. The duration is 18 seconds or less if your tank is moving before those 18 seconds have ended. So the good thing is, it has a 100% block rate. That's awesome. Also, the other party members who are standing behind you when you use it will only suffer 85% of the damage taken, and the duration is quite long. Also, the recast is not too long. All these things are great, but what is bad in this case is that your tank actually cannot move while using it, because if he moves, the effect will be ended, and that's why it's so low on my list. I think it has quite some usage because basically it's another useful cooldown which is not too long on the recast timer, so this is something you can actually frequently use. The only bad thing, like I said, is that basically you cannot attack when you use it, but it's great that you can protect other party members with it, so it's definitely on my list. It's just not too high. Next, on number 9 on my list would be another Paladin ability. It would be Divine Veil. Divine Veil also has a 120 second recast timer, and the effect is, upon HP recovery via healing magic cast by self or party member, a protective barrier is cast on all party members within a radius of 15 yalms. Duration is 30 seconds, and the barrier effect would be prevents damage up to 10% of your maximum HP. Duration also 30 seconds. Effect ends upon additional HP recovery via healing magic. So basically you get another shield for all your party members which are close to you. The bad thing on this one, however, is that you have to be healed so that it's triggered. That's kind of weird. I think they should remove that and just make it a shield like similar to Shake It Off, which will be on this list also later. But as where it stands right now, I think it's not too useful. The advantage against Passage of Arms, if you compare those two, is even though the recast timer is the same and maybe Passage of Arms can protect you from more damage, maybe, Divine Veil can be used and you can keep attacking. It's also GCD, so that's kinda awesome compared to it. That's why personally I think it's better. Next would be my number 8, which is another Paladin cooldown. It would be Sheltron. Sheltron blocks the next attack. Additional effect is partial MP restored upon block. Duration is 10 seconds, so you have 10 seconds while you are taking a hit which will be blocked. And also the recast is only 5 seconds. So that's like a huge plus why this is so high on my list. The recast is only 5 seconds. You may need 50 points of your oath gauge to use it, but you can fairly fill this gauge pretty fast, especially like when you're spamming your Holy Spirit or something, but it's not too high because the effect is not that strong. Like blocking one attack, that's awesome, like when you have a tank buster coming up or something that you want to block, or you know there's a bigger hit coming anyway, but it's like not as good if you're like doing dungeon pulls or something. That's where this ability is probably not shining, but for single attacks this is pretty damn good. Also for the fact that it has a really short recast and can be used quite frequently. But like I said, this is my personal opinion, and I think Sheltron can be used quite a lot, that's why it's a little higher on the list than the other two. Next up, number 7, would actually be another Paladin cooldown on my list. It would be Bulwark. Bulwark increases block rate by 60%, duration is 15 seconds, the recast is 180 seconds. I was thinking about either putting Bulwark or Sentinel. Sentinel would be the same recast timer, but the duration is only 10 seconds, but the reduces damage effect is 40%. I think before the patch, before the expansion was 60%, I think, and 40% sounds great, but those 5 extra seconds of Bulwark in my opinion are a little bit better, especially because blocking or increasing the block rate now by 60% is kinda useful, because block has gotten way better from what it has been before Stormblood. So basically 60% more block for 15 seconds I think can be quite useful. Next would be number 6 on my list, and that's the first warrior ability I want to talk about. It would be Thrill of Battle. Thrill of Battle increases maximum HP by 20% and restores the amount increased. Duration is 20 seconds, so after 20 seconds your maximum will go 20% down again, and the recast is 120 seconds. I think this is huge because you're getting a heal and your maximum HP is going up, so this means you can be healed more, and also like if you're low in HP you can just use it for self instant heal. That's quite awesome. I think it's not the best thing the warrior has, there will be another more on my list, but I think Thrill of Battle stands out. Also because the recast is pretty short and healing yourself for 20% can be quite useful in situations. Number 5 on my list will be another warrior ability. That would be Shake It Off, because after they changed Shake It Off it's quite useful now. Shake It Off creates a barrier around self and all nearby party members that absorbs damage totaling 8% of maximum HP. The spells Thrill of Battle, Inner Beast, Vengeance and Raw Intuition, increasing damage absorbed by 4% for each effect removed. So basically you should not be using this with other abilities in combination, but the recast is only 90 seconds and you're giving everyone a shield, so for a tank buster this can be quite good, or even for AoE damage or Mongdi rate. I mean, Shake It Off before was quite pathetic, but what they did with this I think is pretty damn useful. It's not the best thing that you have, but a 90-second cooldown for a shield for everyone, even if it's only 8%, can be quite useful. I personally like to use this a lot. And coming to my number 4, which will be another warrior cooldown, is Raw Intuition. Raw Intuition parries all physical attacks taken from the front. All attacks taken from the flank or rear will result in critical damage. So this means basically you want to make sure that you're only being attacked from the front, or use awareness in combination with this. The recast is only 90 seconds, duration is 20 seconds, and just think about that. Every attack, let's just imagine you can parry everything with this, so only attacks from the front or combined with awareness, which kinda adds up pretty nicely, is huge because you're taking so much less damage when you actually combine this, or even if you just use Raw Intuition, like just use it in dungeon pulls or even with bigger hits. It's amazing. I really love Raw Intuition. The damage it prevents is awesome. Coming to my personal number 3 is another warrior ability. It would be Equilibrium. It has a Q potency of 1200 HP when you use it in Defiance, so it's a major big ass heal. Or it restores 200 TP when you're under the effect of Deliverance. So first off, it has 2 different effects depending on the stance that you're in. If you need TP, you can just use it when you're in your DPS stance, and if you need a heal, you can use it in Defiance. The recast is so short, you can use this once a minute. This thing is incredibly useful, and it's kinda weird that they didn't make more abilities like this before Stormblood, like I mean later. They basically moved stuff like Steel Cyclone and Decimate together, like abilities which you could only use in one stance anyway, but Equilibrium is not quite like that. It's more of, I mean, I would like to see something like that on Clemency, on Paladin, or something, just something, but they didn't. Like, I mean, basically they could do the same with the 2 MP regeneration skills on Dark Knight basically, but I don't know if they're gonna do something like that. But basically, Equilibrium is an awesome ability. 60-second cooldowns is another reason why it's so high on my list. But the 2 effects really stand out, especially because you can use them depending on the situation you are in. Okay, coming to the final 2. This was a little tough actually, and people might not agree to what I'm going to say here, but my number 2, and that is something that was my number 1 for a long time in this game, depending on looking at tank cooldowns, is Vengeance. Vengeance has a 120-second recast. It reduces damage taken by 30%, so it's actually weaker than the Paladin skill, but it reduces damage taken by 30% and delivers an attack with a potency of 55 every time you suffer physical damage. Duration is 15 seconds, so basically you'd be getting hit and you hit your enemies back. So that's a huge plus, but also 30% might not be as much as the 40, but it has a shorter cooldown. It's 1 minute shorter, so you can make way more use out of this. So basically Vengeance, because of that, I think has been the best cooldown in 2.0 and 3.0, but in my personal opinion it's not the best one anymore, but it's quite awesome. It is something I wish would be on the roll ability, so I could use this with the other 2 tanks, but that would probably be too good. But yeah, basically I think in total you see that, in my opinion, Warrior has probably the best overall cooldowns, but there is one more cooldown. My personal number 1 is actually from the Dark Knight. Who would have thought that? But if I say that, you probably already know what it is. If not, I'll tell you. It's the Blackest Night. I think the Blackest Night is by far the best cooldown the game actually has right now. It creates a barrier around self that absorbs damage totaling 20% of your maximum HP, or around a party member that absorbs damage totaling 10% of your maximum HP. So it's a little weaker if you use it on somebody else, but you don't have to, you can use it on yourself. Increases blood gauge by 50 when full 20% or 10% is absorbed. So this means if this barrier is taken by the full effect and you getting more damage than those 20% have provided, or 10% if you use it on somebody else, you'll get 50 points on your gauge, which means you can use an awesome attack then. The recast is only 15 seconds, so you can basically use this 4 times every minute, which is insane. The MP cost is not that high if you think about how fast Dark Knight can actually regain MP. So basically, you can spam this a lot. You can make sure you are taking less damage, or any of your party members is getting less damage. Like if you're off tanking, you can use it on the main tank, and you benefit from it. And that's insanely good. And I mean, the other cooldowns the Dark Knight has they are not that great. Like Shadow Wall is really shitty compared to what the other 2 tanks have. Or Dark Mind could be useful. That's like an honorable mention, I think, because 30% magic vulnerability up could be useful. It is useful actually. I like to use it at least sometimes, and also that you can buff it if you really want to. That's something cool to play around with. But really, I think if Dark Knights wouldn't have Blackest Night, they would be played far less than they are. But with Blackest Night, they are just awesome. That kinda makes me still want to play Dark Knight, because the Blackest Night, I could tell you so long why I like this ability. It's awesome. Like, you have 7 seconds in which this barrier should be broken, and you always want it to be broken, so you can use a stronger attack. And also, like, you can use it if you get several hits, because 20% it adds up. It's not like Shelterin, for example, which only blocks 1 hit. And it's also great for a tank buster, because then it will definitely break. You have 7 seconds, so that's enough time to use it in the right moment, and it just provides you taking too much damage. So yeah, that's my personal list of the top 10 tank cooldowns we have currently in the game, which are not role abilities or those Imber Living Dead like abilities. Please let me know what you think about this list. Do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me? And in both cases, let me know. If you have another top 10, if you think the top 10 should look different, please make sure to list your top 10 tank cooldowns in the video comment section. Awesome. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.